Review and installation of the Unity gas cap, Axon SL USB-C switch, T.REX arms, Lightbar Pro M-LOK, and SureFire 640 DFT Pro on my SIG Rattler LT. I'm using this combination of products to decrease shadow from the suppressor and make light activation easier. Unity gas cap brings USB-C capabilities to weapon-mounted flashlights and switches. I think this is a better switching system than your common SureFire because it brings near-loss output and reliable activation. The cage has reversible cable management with this slot here and ensures lockup of the connection. Full-size button with momentary and constant, as opposed to the SureFire DS00 that only has a small button. Gas cap is about a 1/4 inch longer than the SureFire and slightly longer than your mod light tail ends. Switch and gas cap are made of a high-impact polymer material. Comes with a rubber plug you can stick inside the connection area and wrap the cage around if you don't want to run a switch. Compatible with Scout-style light bodies. Axon SL is the 4.5 inch USB-C single-button switch. 45-degree angle for ergonomics. Chose this because it has momentary and constant. Comes with Picatinny mount, but you can buy M-LOK separately. Since the light is directly in front of the switch, the 7-inch cable was too long. There was excess left over that I couldn't neatly secure. Gas cap costs $109 and this switch costs $114. The T.REX arms Lightbar Pro is made by Arisaka and they make great mounts. I chose the Pro for the mount and the light because it's a much more durable system than your Scout mount, especially when it's going to be hanging off a handguard. This material is much thicker than on the Scout version. It's solid all the way through. It's beefed up around the screw area, and the bolt system on the SureFire mounts is a lot more durable. Scout mounts have a higher chance to break, especially on the extension, much thinner, especially around the screw area. These are helpful for short handguards and suppressors, which is directly my case. Maximizes rail space, which is going to be helpful for this switch. You can get the Picatinny version, but because the top of the handguard has a slit in it to pull this off, I didn't really want to mount it there, and I also didn't know where I wanted to mount the switch. Although with my grip and where I'm placing it, it does create a small issue. M-LOK has a cantilever offset of 0.15 inches, which is still going to allow me to remove the quick detach on the SureFire suppressor. Only weighs 1.5 ounces and costs $50. This is definitely a quality mount for the price. I chose the SureFire 640 Dual Fuel Turbo Pro. Again, mainly because of that mount and how it is more durable with the cross bolt, but also because this is the longest rifle light. The head is what is making it longer, along with having the mount at the rear end kick the flashlight out closest to the end of the suppressor. I also wanted dual fuel capabilities because that is important, being able to run CR123s, 90 to 100K candelas, and then 600 to 700 lumens. I would have liked to see that balanced out a little bit more, or the surrounding circle to spread out a little bit higher. Using this indoors, it's not blinding or reflecting. The only problem is the beam can slightly wash out some detail. Overall, just a really good light. You can get these about $270 on sale. You can get the smaller version, or you could go with something like the new Modlight OKW V2 that does have better performance than this. PLH V2, it has a little bit better of a balance with the lower candelas but higher lumens. I am prioritizing home defense, although since it's still a pretty compact package, I don't think I would have any problems sticking this in a bag. I still can take off the suppressor and save a few inches there, even with having this mounted. Or if I absolutely need to have the smallest package possible, I can use the Picatinny mount that came with the SureFire, take off the rest, and then just mount the switch right to the top here like I was doing before with the mod light flashlight I had. Take the bezel off the flashlight. It's going to make it a little bit easier. Take off the end since I am installing the gas cap. Unthread this screw because I'm not going to use that Picatinny. I'm choosing to mount it on the left side even though it's going to get in the way of my hand a little bit because I want it to be as slimline as possible, having everything on the same side. So I will have it oriented this way, slide the screw in, somewhat snug, but still able to move it for now until I get the rest put on there. Make sure to add some blue medium strength thread locker to your screw threads. You'll need a 4mm hex bit for these exact screws, but the easiest way to do it is to tighten these down horizontally. When I have them horizontal, I can drop them in, slightly loosen them just enough for the nuts to slide under the handguard, and then I can retighten them until they're vertical. Drop it in the slot, have that pushed forward, loosen that a little bit, and then tighten it back up. Same for the back, loosen it a little bit, and then tighten it back up. Now that my M-LOK nuts are completely vertical and snugged up, I'm going to torque these to 30 inch-pounds, and then the light body will be 12 inch-pounds. Going to go back and forth. Can just do hand tight. So that already hit. I have this marked where it's going to be best for me. You'll need a T10 Torx bit for this. These do have thread locker on there. You can use that or add a little bit more, and then you're just going to drop your nuts into the other end. Your screws will go into the side that says Unity. Because of how the MCX handguard is, I actually can't get it into this front slot without shaving some of this down or putting some force in it. It just doesn't slide in there very well. The top right there, that's going to be facing up. Put this on the right side. It doesn't really matter which side you put the screw or nut. When it hooks into the rail, the design and curve of the Picatinny clamps are going to match the design on the side. It'll fit flush around the switch. On the bottom, it slides in to the slots, and then the other half of the square slides into the Picatinny rail. With the Unity words facing up and my bolts, I'm just gonna slide that in. When you're tightening this down, you want to go very lightly. It's only 5 inch-pounds. Kind of go back and forth on them. Pretty much just need it snugged up. Seems kind of like a fragile switch design, pretty much until it doesn't move. The bolts can just keep going through on the other side. So if it clamps tight, should be good. You want both of the clamps to be flush up against that side. It's hooking on the bottom. Mine are sticking out a little bit past. Yours might be a little bit different, but you just want it snug. I don't have a torque wrench for 5 pounds. If you over tighten it, you can damage the switch. Snug this down a little bit just so it's not flopping all over the place. Then I'll take the gas cap and I'm gonna screw this in almost all the way. I'm going to have the flashlight in the fully flipped up position so that my shadow will be facing downwards and I don't have a shadow in the upright position, but that is where it is going to be stopped. If you have this swivel, you can just swivel it over, or you can slightly loosen this tail cap to stick it in. You can have my cable going out, or you can have your cable going forward. But if you flip it around, then it's the same thing. Your cable can go that way or out. You don't want to just pull it and rip it out. You want to come underneath on both sides and pull upwards so you're not damaging the prongs. Either way, it's about the same. This is slightly more concealed, or at least out of the way of the push button if I had to activate that. If I flip it around, this has a little bit less slack, but slightly more in the way of the end of the tail button, and it's also going more towards the opposite way of the switch. The cable is faced outwards. I'm gonna push that in really tight. I want that notch for the cable management to be going on this side. Slip it over top. Make sure that it fits over just like that, where you can see the switch, the cable management clamping that way. Hook the non-cable side first. So there's 2 hooks on the back side of this cage. I'm going to get that one started and you'll hear it click in place. And then I'll slide it over the other edge, just like that. Make sure it's still clamped how you want it. And then you kind of have to smush them together, but you can hear that that one clicked as well. Tighten that the rest of the way. The screw for the light itself does have a dab of thread locker. I'm just gonna put a hair more on there just to be safe. Thread that back in, 12 inch-pounds. When you're tightening this down, you just wanna make sure that it's level using a flathead screwdriver. So I have 12 there. Insert the battery, put my bezel back on. With the SureFire 300 SPS and this combination, I'm about 1 inch to maybe 1 1/8 inches away from the end of the suppressor, still taking me a lot farther and eliminating a lot more shadow. For the edge of this mount to the end of the light head, we have 8 1/8 inches in length. With a mod light head total length from the head to the end of the mount, we have 7 9/16 total length. The difference in length between the 2 heads is about 9/16 of an inch. You can buy the SureFire style bodies from SureFire. So you could get just the body. You would then have to buy the screw because the screw does not come with the body, and then you could buy the head. However, that is about the same price as just getting the SureFire 640 DFT anyways, because these light heads were about $200. Quick cable management with some high temp zip ties. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. One on the inside of the handguard right here. It's not touching anything, and one on the top with a small piece of a cutout Magpul Picatinny cover. Not the most ideal. My wires still are able to move. I did snug them down just enough to hold them in place. I have it wrapped over so it's not in the way of my button. It's going up and around, curving on the flat part of the front handguard. Having this on the right side of the gun would make this a little bit more ideal for my grip, but because we have the stock folding to this side, I wanted to prioritize having it as slim as possible. It's just more streamlined. It's gonna make it easier to stick into a bag because of that offset. I can still push this in and swing it over, and you can see it slightly touches, but it's just under spring tension. I still can pull off this suppressor. I just have to push that tab in just a hair and then ratchet it. I typically prefer the BCM vertical grip mounted towards the front because the BCM grip has the thicker lip up top. Not only does it not allow my hand and thumb to get as high up on the handguard, but it also pushes my hand a little bit closer towards this and my knuckle starts to rub. So I got the B5 vertical grip because it is more low profile up towards the top. I could even trim those little nubs off if I wanted to get a little bit back farther. Having it mounted with the angle facing towards the rear, it allows me to get my hand just far enough away from this, and then I have the switch mounted pretty much directly above it where it is comfortable for my hand. If I have just the fingers on the grip, I'll stay away from it. It's going to be more like this, so it's just slightly touching. But for switch activation, it's easier to hit, and then I can still C-clamp relatively easy because of that face on the front of the switch. If you wanted to grip like that, and then you are completely away from the nub of that mount. This is about going to be my grip. My hand is just slightly touching that. It's not as uncomfortable as it was. It was just rubbing right there on my knuckle. It might not be a problem for some of you. I do have skinnier and bonier hands, so that rubbing right there all the time was a little bit annoying. However, the switch activation is nice. I can easily press the momentary, click in a little bit more for constant. The 45-degree angle is nice. Even if you have a mod button, because it's raised a little bit, you could still get on that. You would more use the entire surface of your thumb. As with this, I can use the point to just barely activate instead of trying to activate with my whole thumb. It's not going to be as accurate. It's going to feel a little bit more weird. The mod button would work as well, but you would be in a higher hand position where this grip might not work. Kind of depends how you're grabbing the handguard or if you're running a grip. The room is at dim lighting conditions. That is all the shadow it is. And from the light or end of the gun to the door, it's about 5 feet, slightly below half of the light beam. This takes most of the shadow away. You're only seeing a small little crescent on that right side. It's not reflecting or blinding, but you can see because of that hot spot, it is kind of washing out that area on a white wall. If it's a person or a darker color, it probably won't wash out as much. You can still see the door handle. There's just more glare on it. And then if I go over the white colored light switches, it pretty much blocks those out completely. I can see it with the human eye. There's just a little bit more of a washout, but the shadow is pretty minimal. Still can reach this if my switch fails. It's just not the most comfortable thing. The vertical grip makes it easier to do so. It does have a nice click to it for the momentary and constant. So if you didn't want to run a switch, you still can reach out and activate this fairly easy. I just have to adjust my grip. Wrist is in a lot more canted of a position forward, whereas here my wrist is more straight. This is more comfortable in the sense that my knuckle is not rubbing on this nub here. However, to activate the light, I'm having to input more into the gun. My hand's in a really forward position. The gun is moving around a little bit more when I activate my hand. It is pretty much at the end of the handguard. I can activate that with a little bit less input. If you want to see more videos like this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help support the channel, and thank you for watching.